this video, we're gonna be talking about why quitting addiction is so damn hard. Stay tuned. Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode here at Sobriety University. On this channel, we talk about addiction and recovery related topics. My name is Joel, and in this video, we're gonna be talking about why quitting addiction is so damn hard. There's this great saying in recovery that it's simple but not easy, and I think that perfectly describes the topic of today's video. It makes total sense when we say it out loud, right? I just stopped using the substance, period. However, to do so is a totally different beast. And today I'm going to be talking about why it's so difficult and then how to make it a little less difficult, because that's ultimately what we want, is to be able to make it as smooth as possible, even if it's going to be a little, bumpy smooth. So before we begin, like, comment, subscribe. Really helps the channel grow. We're moving quick, and I really appreciate all the support. Also, if you are interested in quitting your addiction and having some struggles with it, I invite you to fill out the application below to work with me personally for Sobriety 101 coaching. Together, you and I will help create a game plan for you to stay sober long term, and most importantly, hit your first 30-day mark. Because what I found is that once I hit that 30 days in basically any addiction I had, I was pretty much good, because I knew I had so much experience from that 30 days, and I had seen the difference in reality. I had seen the beauty of life without the addiction, and there was no freaking way I was going back. So personally, that was my experience, and I look forward to sharing that with you. Again, apply down below if you are interested. And with that, let's dive into the video. So addiction is a beast, and as many of you have probably experienced, it can be a roller coaster of emotions, going from super highs to super lows. Some days it can feel like, wow, this is super easy. Like, I can't even believe I ever struggled with any addiction. The next day it can feel like, wow, all I want to do is use, whether it's drugs, alcohol, food, you name it. And so understanding that dichotomy of the up and down is really important, I found, in being able to prepare myself the best I can, so that when those days come, that I've done the preparation so it's not such a blow to the face. Because what kind of happened for me at the beginning is that I'd have these amazing days. I'd have these ups, these huge peaks and valleys of life. It's called the pink cloud effect, and I'm going to link a video down below. I suggest you watch it because it explains this more in detail. What happens though is that doesn't last forever. And when I was on that high, I thought to myself, this high is going to last forever. I finally made it. Thank Jesus, or Buddha, or whoever. And then of course, that high doesn't last. No highs last, as you know, with drugs and alcohol, or whatever addiction you are dealing with. And so when it would crash, I would feel this sense of doom, like, oh my God, what did I do? I did something wrong. My recovery's over. Something must have happened that, where's all this happiness that I felt 2 freaking days ago? It's gone. And because of that, I would be tempted to go use again, because it's like, well, I can't get that high that I just felt, so I might as well get my high from somewhere else. I guess it didn't work for me. Now, this pattern has played out in other areas of my life too. So what's great about understanding this habitual pattern now is that it can really help and mitigate the pain with other things, including relationships, including business, work, school, because I know personally I have experienced that experience in all those areas. For example, I'm in real estate, and when I got my real estate license, I felt like freaking God Almighty, right? I was like, I made it, I'm there, and it was a high I had only experienced another time, was when I got accepted to college. However, that high didn't last, and I thought, oh man, did I just ruin it? My career is over? That's kind of the thoughts that were spiraling through my head. Thankfully, because of having gone through the addiction, I knew this was, okay, this is just the mind doing its thing, and this isn't based in reality. And this was 2.5 months ago. So I was able to kind of just snap out of it a lot quicker. Same with relationships. I'll meet someone new, it'll be exciting, it'll be fun, and then, things will die down a little bit. And because of learning this habit in addiction, I don't freak out or try to, try too hard to mend it, or something bad happens. It's just all right, this is the experience, this is the ebb and flow of life. And applying that to addiction is super important, because it's okay, when this happens, what am I gonna do to move forward? Because essentially what happens is that once that high comes and once that low comes, it means that that lesson or that experience has, in a sense, resolved. And the reason why I think there's a crash or a period of just like feeling kind of low is because it was so important to us. It meant so much to do whatever the X, Y, or Z was, that now that it's over, it almost feels like, it's like, what am I working towards anymore? I put so much energy into that. Like, oh, it's like a part of me dies almost. And that is just a message that it's time to move forward and kind of work on the next issue or wave of issues. And what's great about this is that those highs will come back as we work through other issues. So that is a way to mitigate that first kind of challenge of recovery and make it a little less difficult. Another thing of why recovery is so difficult is because it's a balance of spiritual and practical. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, as many of you know and have probably learned through getting clean, getting sober from X, Y, or Z, whatever substance, is that this part of you opens up that maybe you never had access to, or that maybe wasn't as obvious in your life. I know I experienced that personally. The spiritual realm. And not only did I experience it, when I quit weed, for example, it was the first time I experienced it, at least in a long, long time. I had to really tap into it to grind out those first few weeks, that first couple months, to get to that point where the withdrawals were gone and I could kind of start moving forward in a more like effective manner anyway. So really tapping into that spiritual was very important. Now, what's great about the spiritual is that it's just you. It's such a beautiful thing. You don't need anything outside of who you are and the universe, spirit, higher power, God, Buddha, whatever you want to believe in, or if you don't believe in anything at all, that's totally fine as well. It's such an inner thing that no one can ever experience, like exactly the way you're experiencing it. No, you can never replicate it. No one can replicate it. It's yours personally. And this can be quite a beautiful, amazing thing. Now, what I found though is that as time went on, I kind of for a long time thought I was going to be in this spiritual realm forever. Like, I'm like, okay, I could get comfortable here. This is nice. I'm really in tune with myself. I don't need anything else. I could literally go sit in the woods for hours and just be at peace. Nature is something I really recommend for new people in sobriety. It is just such a way to tap into universe again, to tap into oneself. And again, I was like, okay, this is something I could hang out in for the rest of my life. Now, back to this original point, practical, where does that come into play? Well, I started to notice that I have bills coming. The bills weren't going away. Even though I would sit in the woods all day, I still came back to my apartment, which cost money. I still needed to buy food. I really wasn't planning on eating nuts and berries from the woods out here. So it was like, okay, I got to start thinking of life in the spiritual and as well in the practical. Now, how is this difficult? Because it can be hard to distinguish the two. And it can be really easy to want to just fall into one category and the other and forget about the other. I know there have been times where I've been so in the practical, like career, like when I was studying for the real estate exam, making money, all that kind of thing, even relationships in a sense, that I would forget about the spiritual. I would forget to go back out into nature. I would forget to meditate as much as I was doing. And all of a sudden one day I'd wake up and I'd be like, you know, I've been feeling not great lately. The high of the practical, of the work, of the chasing the money, the relationships, when that was done, it was like, okay, what's left? And that is where the spiritual comes into play. So it's really important to balance both, to have the spiritual be strong, have it be solid, and to be working on the practical at the same time. And together they come and just make an amazing force. Now, that being said as well, there have been times where I've been so in the spiritual, as I mentioned earlier, that I would forget about the practical. I would kind of just be lazy on other things, on money, and then all of a sudden I'd have these bills racking up, and I'd be like, fuck, like I didn't pay attention to the practical because I was so in the spiritual. And so part of strengthening in the spiritual is having to go back to the practical. And you can kind of see it's just kind of a dance. This is a back and forth, finding that harmony between the two. And so it's definitely a beautiful thing to work on, and I really think that it yields so many benefits. It is difficult though to kind of at first to see how that plays out in your life, because I can talk about it. However, you're going to have a totally different experience of your spiritual versus and your practical balancing out. And that is one of the challenges of recovery, and that's why it makes it so hard. And sometimes it can feel like I'm doing all this stuff in the spiritual, but I don't feel very spiritual, or I'm doing all this stuff in the practical, and the practical isn't happening either. What's going on? And that's where the temptation to use or to relapse and come back in. And so understanding when that experience happens, it's like, okay, I might be doing all the right things, but nothing's happening. However, and this is the most important thing that I've learned in recovery, is that just means that something big and massive is right around the corner. And if I just hold on a little longer, or in the paradox, I just keep letting go a little longer and have patience, that eventually life's just going to blossom, open up more than I could have ever imagined. And all the things I've been working to are going to come to fruition. And of course, every time I've been like, I'm so thankful I didn't quit, because there's been times where I wanted to just throw in the towel. And so that understanding that whenever there's a lull in one of those periods, even when there's work being done, it just means that the work is being done and eventually it's going to culminate. So guys, with that, please feel free to comment down below what your hardest struggle has been in recovery and in addiction. I would love to know. And I think everyone's unique and has their own unique experience. I think that's really cool. So also, again, one more time, like, comment, subscribe. Sobriety 101 coaching is now available. Apply down below. And with that, we'll talk to you in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.